Alright, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is that tripped me up so badly, guys. Anyway, guys, is Australia OP? You know, as we normally do, I'm going to go ahead and try to forecast this. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, yes. From what we've encountered from, all the way from casual geographics to like now, I can tell you Australia is probably OP, based off of all of the ridiculous animals there, reptiles specifically, right? Bugs, birds. Yeah, guys. Australia is OP. But let's go and check it out. Of course. Game over. Oh, right.
When creating a character, it's important to take into account which server you plan to play on, as well as the current state of the meta on that server. Most builds don't have the mobility required to change servers, so you want to make sure you know what you're getting into. But which server is the best choice for you, and which abilities can give you a leg up on the competition there?
Okay, personally, if I was to choose, I would probably choose North America. I'm just going to be honest, because we've already liquidated, unfortunately, a lot of the habitats. So I think we'd be good there, personally.
This is the first of a new series which will examine all of those things and more. Today we're taking a look at one of the more notorious servers, Australia.
Definitely not South.
Australia is known for being one of the most dangerous servers in the entire game, and this is by no means unwarranted. There are a few reasons why the meta there is so scary.
Okay, go ahead.
Reptiles as a whole are generally mid-tier. We've talked on this channel a good bit about how most snakes are garbage, and how the unique moves available to lizards generally don't end up being worth the investment. With that said, the Australian server seems to be the one with the most high-tier reptiles. It has not one, but two different groups of crocodile builds, one of which being the saltwater crocodile, the highest-ranking crocodilian build in the current expansion, due to their super broken 0-to-death combo and health regeneration ability. It's also got most of the top-tier lizards, the monitors. While the best monitor players opted to play almost exclusively on the island server of Komodo, Australia's got many of the runners-up, including the Parenti.
Bro, you're too close.
It's also got plenty of the more gimmicky lizard players too, but I digress. Australia is the only server where
what was that?
Got plenty of the more gimmicky lizard players too.
It looked like one of the raptors from Jurassic Park.
But I digress. Australia is the only server where there are more venomous snakes than there are non-venomous ones.
Keep in mind,
which means snakes on average are actually one of the top builds there.
From that one.
You may remember from my snake video that the top tier snake build is the Cobra, and while they don't have the intimidating hood ability, Australia's inland taipan, brown snake, and tiger snake are all technically Cobras. They've got the same well-rounded base stats and neurotoxic venom you see in your classic Cobra build, which brings me to my next point. Venom is so dangerous because it takes only a single wrong move and just a single bite or sting to spell the end for you. And Australia is packed full of players who'd be more than happy to do just that. I've already talked about snakes, but it gets worse. Going for a swim but picked the wrong spot? One brush with the box jelly and it's game over. Reaching into a confined space? Pretty risky when the piercing bite of a funnel web spider could cost you everything. This isn't really a specific trait, but rather just the uniqueness of everything.
You guys can keep Australia
there.
Like, no offense. Listen, I've been to Sydney. Absolutely amazing place. The city is great. I love the overall architecture there. It's great. The people were decent, right? But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I have no interest. Zero interest in ever leaving any type of city environment. Bro, why are there spiders in your shoes? Are you leaving your shoes outside? Is that what you're doing, people? Oh, God. Why would you leave your shoes outside knowing that you have all these disturbing creatures around?
Most experienced players will be able to jump into a new playthrough on a new server and have a general idea of what to expect when they encounter a novel build, simply based on there being similar builds on other servers. But what on earth are you supposed to expect when you meet something like this for the first time? What are its weaknesses?
What is that?
Its strengths? Nothing about its
venom
appearance gives you any idea at all about how to go about combating it. And the same goes for quite a few of the most popular builds there. The relative abundance of jank makes Australia a really unforgiving place for newbies. While all of that can definitely be frustrating to play against, it's important to also recognize all the things Australia is lacking in.
Let's go.
Number 1, a lack of tanks.
The
best tank builds tend to be mammals, which opted for high defense and HP.
Builds.
This tends to come at the cost to mobility, making it difficult for tanks to function
Bro, now you know that nose is ridiculous.
as carnivores, and so most tank players tend to choose the herbivore faction. Unfortunately, Australia's abysmally low rainfall means the spawn rate for plants is too slow to support a large herbivorous tank. This leaves the rushdown and ambush-based builds without a counter and lets them get away with strats they otherwise shouldn't be able to. Number 2, a lack of powerful mammals. One of the reasons reptiles do so well on the Australian server is because instead of having to deal with their worst hard counter, carnivorans, they instead are faced with a different group of mammals, marsupials and monotremes. I won't beat around the bush here. These builds are mostly low tier, for one very specific reason:
I can imagine.
low intelligence. The majority of marsupial players go for the small generalist approach, similar to rats and raccoons, but they're missing what makes these builds so effective: problem solving. Marsupials, such as wombats, wallabies, opossums, and kangaroos, all lack the perk that allows most mammals to access higher intelligence-based abilities, the corpus callosum. Since they don't have this, the best strategy is to drop the generalist playstyle in favor of the mobile herbivore. This is actually what makes kangaroos the only marsupial builds to break out of low tier and find their way into actual relevance in the meta. While they aren't tanks, they've essentially taken inspiration from the rabbit or gazelle build and made it bulkier at the expense of intelligence. But even so, if you compare competing builds that have similar stats and strategies,
Looking at the stats, guys, the base stats, they're not very good.
intelligence
Like for either of these species.
is almost always the tiebreaker. It's why even though they're relatively new to the server, dingoes and feral cats are oppressing their marsupial counterparts, like the thylacine and the quoll, which brings me to my last point: lack of stability. The Australian meta is at a major tipping point. While there's no meta that went unaffected by the Anthropocene expansion, Australia saw the highest influx of new players and also the highest rate of quitting of any current server. Even though more unique builds exist there than almost anywhere else, the high tiers are mostly full of invaders.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest. If you spawn in here, I'm not gonna say that you should probably quit, but yeah, you should definitely quit, bro. If you spawn in Australia,
Dingoes, cats, humans, cane
with
toads,
this.
rabbits,
Not with
and
these.
yellow jackets all conquered the server because they exploited the weaknesses within the meta.
okay.
Since things are changing so fast, it's difficult to offer advice on how to succeed in Australia, but I'll give it a shot anyway. First, venom is one of your biggest concerns when trying to break into the meta there, so putting some points into venom resistance can go a long way. Builds like the mongoose, honey badger, boar, and secretary bird have done well in other servers by using their resistance to neurotoxin optimally.
So pigs should probably do very well here then, guys. Being that there's so many layers of fat that can actually block it, based off of what he said in another video at least, right? Pigs should, any of the pig species should do amazingly. But again, why would you want to main a pig though?
And I could see builds like these being serious contenders if they gained a foothold in this region.
Well, those are
Second,
pigs.
and this would be much more difficult, but kangaroos are kind of getting away with success that they don't deserve simply because they're too big to beat without risking a lot of damage. A build capable of one-shotting them with a stealth attack or simply overpowering them with strength and bulk could find itself reigning supreme. Big cats like the jaguar and leopard could excel there, but I could even see cheetahs pulling it off, especially since there aren't lions and hyenas to bully them. Bears would also be an excellent choice. Nothing here could
Are there
stand
no
up to a
bears
charging
in Australia?
grizzly. Lastly, in my very first video, I discussed
Bro, but how about this? Let's not introduce something like that into Australia because it will take out a lot of species. I mean, maybe that could be a good thing because I think Australia obviously has an abundance of terrible creatures. Guys, that could be a good thing potentially, but
discussed how the cane toad's optimized
Don't
poison
blame
ability
bears. I
allowed
think
it to
bears
spread
could
across
turn
the
into a
Australia
keystone
server
species.
unchecked. While they're definitely a tough build to beat, intelligence-based bird players seem to have found a way to defeat them without triggering their poison effect. This advanced technique means Australian corvids could potentially have a niche all to themselves without spending any points to unlock poison resistance. So there you have it, an in-depth rundown on the state of the Australian metagame. This was a bit different from my normal tier list style videos.
Right.
So if you enjoyed it and want to see me cover other game servers, the comments below are your best way to let me know. Special thanks to my patrons for bringing my monthly pledges out of freefall and allowing me to continue bringing you guys top tier content.
all right, guys. So overall, I do like the idea of him actually digging into very specific servers because if he does this, then we can get more information on why very specific people are not maining these creatures there, right? I do think by introducing bears, that would absolutely wreck everything there. Like a grizzly, let's not do that. Let's not bring massive amounts of grizzlies there. Probably not a good idea. because I think the grizzly can probably also be a tank almost instantly there, right? I think it would be considered a tank because they don't have any real tanks. Maybe bring hippo. No, matter of fact, leave them how they are. I would say that. Leave them exactly how they are. Just think of Australia as, the final destination of servers, right? Once you finish all the other servers, you get through them all, right? Then take on Australia as like the From Software version of Australia. You get what I'm saying here, guys? Everything's in a one shot. You bring the level up super high, the health pool gigantically, right? And do that maybe. But I personally would never main, again, Australia. That's never going to be something that I would ever do, guys. But all right, listen, let me know in the comments the next thing from him that I should be checking out, and I will get into that as soon as I possibly can. All right, then listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy your day thoroughly.